Hello, my name's Graham Jones, and this presentation is helping you understand what is Click.ology. Well, Click.ology in its simplest form is this new book that I've written, what works in online shopping and how your business can use consumer psychology to succeed. However, Click.ology is about much more than that. It's about how psychology is fundamental to online success. If we look at how online shopping has evolved over the years, it began in April 1984 when CompuServe set up its first electronic mall. This was an online shopping arena. It was all text-based and it was quite difficult to use and quite cumbersome, but that's when they set it up. The first electronic sale, though, didn't happen until June 1984, and that happened in Gateshead in the UK when a 70-something-year-old Mrs. Snowball bought her groceries from Tesco using an electronic system connected to the telephone. It wasn't until 7 years later that the first ever website was put together by Tim Berners-Lee, and the first book sold online was sold by W.H. Smith in April 1995, some 6 or 7 months before Amazon began. So a lot has happened with online shopping. It's been with us, though, for 30 years, much longer than many people seem to appreciate. Online shopping now, though, is immense. 1 in 5 items bought in the world is now sold online. 20% of all trade is online. The internet is now 8.3% of the GDP in Britain, making it a sizable single aspect of the whole of the British economy. And online sales continue to grow substantially. This Christmas in 2013 saw record web sales, with some companies reporting a 56% increase on the previous Christmas. Over $1 trillion is spent a year online. So online shopping in 30 years has come a long way, but it's probably come a much greater distance in the last year or two. It's now fundamental to the economy. The problem is, though, internet retailing is biased. Massive players dominate online retail, and a quick look at some figures will show us that. ASOS is the world's biggest online fashion store, and they're selling currently about $1 billion in a year. They are the most successful online fashion retailer there is. They outstrip many of the others who you might think are leading online fashion retailers. But Amazon sells $1 billion worth of stuff every 6 days. And Alibaba sells $1 billion worth of stock every 8 hours. So you can see that even though ASOS is hugely successful, it's a minnow in comparison to people like Amazon and Alibaba. And so all those other sites who are selling significantly less than $1 billion in a year are really tiny players on the internet. Online sales are dominated by the big retailers like Amazon, like eBay, and by big distributors like Alibaba. Most online retail is through just a handful of firms. So how do they do that? Well, what they do is that they focus on what the customer wants, when they want it, and how they want it. They have literally spent all of their time focusing on precisely what the customer needs. And the interesting thing about these highly successful online retailers is that those businesses are not from traditional retail. They are from the computer sector, they are from the technology sector. That means that their retailing is not really tainted by old-fashioned retail thinking. The successful traditional retailers who have worked well, like John Lewis or Next, they have ditched much of their prior retail knowledge for focusing on online as to what the customer wants, when they want it, and how they want it. One particular thing to take note of is that traditional retailers know that they have several minutes really to engage with a customer. Online, you've got just a couple of seconds. So one of the things that traditional retailers have to change is their attitude to how to engage with customers. The old-fashioned way of engaging with customers over a reasonable period of time doesn't work on the internet, and that's why those big retailers work so well, is because they're not from traditional retail and they focus on precisely what the customer wants in a second or two. And that's important because online shoppers are only a click away from the competition. That means that if you don't engage within a second or two, they can click and go somewhere else. In the world of traditional retail, that's not the case. People find it much more difficult to go to another shop. They might be thinking, oh goodness, it's half a mile down the road, or oh dear, it's raining, I don't really want to walk out in the rain. So people are much more unlikely to go to the competition when they are in traditional retail settings, and so the success of traditional retail is largely due to intransigence, people just not bothering to move elsewhere. There is research that I highlight in the book that shows that people do price comparison in a town centre, but only if those competing shops are within a few hundred metres and are very close together. If they're further than a little way apart, then they don't bother to price compare. Online, of course, we can price compare within a second, within a click. And so what the successful online retailers have done is that they've tapped into the mind of their visitors quickly. They've realized what they want and they deliver it to them within seconds. So why did I write Click.ology? Well, I wanted to demonstrate what really works in online sales. What is it that those successful companies are doing that we can all learn from? I want to show the ways that people shop online so that we can tap into that behavior. People don't shop online in the same way as they shop in the real world. They do different things, and so we need to tap into those different things rather than using the traditional sales techniques that have worked in the real world. I also want to help people understand more about consumer psychology, and so the book has a lot about consumer psychology to help you sell more. And also the book contains the click system of increasing online sales so that you can obtain an idea as to 5 steps to increase online sales. And those 5 steps are convenient, likability, informative, customized and knowledgeable. These are 5 psychological principles really, that if you follow these, if you make your website convenient, if you show likability for your customers, if you provide in-depth information, if you customize your website precisely the way each individual visitor wants it, and you demonstrate deep knowledge about your subject, then people pay attention to that within a second or two at a subconscious level, and they stick on your website much more quickly, for much longer. And so consequently the book exposes these 5 steps of the click system. So there you have it. That's a brief introduction to Click.ology. If you want to find out more and look at a summary of each chapter, then go to Click.ology.biz.